one of the biggest things about investing in real estate, especially rentals, is we have to treat it like a business. If we're not treating it like a business, then it will own our time and it will own us. And one of the major challenges that new real estate investors have, and as folks are building their portfolios, is maintenance. Oh my gosh, we get question after question about I have this maintenance issue and that maintenance issue, and I don't want to do this anymore. It's frustrating. What is your response to these people? Because I know what my response is.
Yeah, and it's, by the way, I totally feel for them. I get it. There's in one way, there's two kinds of guys out there. I'll use guys because I'm one. There's the ones that hear about a physical problem with the house and feel comfortable approaching it, and then there's me. I hate those calls. I hate dealing with getting contractors. I can't get my own bathroom fixed on budget and on time in my house, and I live here, and it makes it that much harder to do it from a distance. When I hold somebody's baby, my hands get chafed. That's how soft my hands are. I do not know how to swing a hammer. I don't know how to do anything. But I've gotten pretty good at dealing with contractors and paying them fairly well and treating them well and having them on call to handle things. And so, number one, it's knowing yourself. Okay, are you capable of doing? If you are, you're going to see an improvement to the performance of your portfolio because you can actually do some of the work yourself. If you're not, then you want to be a general contractor, which means you have to have a guy. And it's really smart to get your guy maybe even before you need him. Okay. In other words, put something out on nextdoor.com. Who's a good handyman in the neighborhood? Put something out, like join nextdoor.com. If you're not familiar with Nextdoor, that's a good little tip, a little hack for people. If you own a home, a rental home in a neighborhood, join that neighborhood as the owner of that home, even if you don't live there, so that you can ask the neighbors, hey, I need a good landscaper, I need a good contractor, or whatever, my gutter's falling down, who's the gutter guy in the neighborhood? But it really makes sense. Again, if it's a business and your business was involved in selling t-shirts on the internet, right? You would probably have a guy who programs websites that you would get early on in the business. If you built the site yourself, but you had a bunch of computers, you might have a guy or a gal that is your IT person to help you fix things that break. You wouldn't necessarily want to be freaking out when all of a sudden you had a serious issue and you hadn't laid the groundwork to have somebody in your Rolodex. So one of the ways that a person like me, soft hand Greg, mitigates the fear of that phone ringing when something's wrong with the house is that I line up my people somewhat in advance, that when I have a plumbing problem, I have a guy who's come well recommended, and I give that person a call and I handle it that way, and just kind of lay the groundwork up front. But it also, it's back to the thing we've talked about before, which is expect it. Mm-hmm. Right? Have a mindset that it's a business. Stuff's going to go wrong. Customers are going to complain. Things are going to break. I don't care what business you're in. I like restaurants as an example, as an analogy.
That's
because
a great
everybody
example.
Goes to them.
Yeah.
Somebody sends the food back. That's a customer who's not happy. If a chair breaks, if you have a leak in the restaurant, that's not fun. You can't open tonight unless you fix that leak. So you scramble and you get somebody to fix it, and you say that was a pain in the neck. And you say, sometimes I hate being a business owner, and then you open the restaurant and you're back in love with being a business owner again, right? Like there are days that you hate it, and my advice is look at the people who aren't. Look at the people that you know who don't own anything, who don't own a business, who work for somebody else only, and say to yourself, you know what, the more ownership that I can accumulate, the better. So when the bumps in the road inevitably come, I don't feel angry about it. I just know this is the day that I'm having to do some homework. This is the day that I have some, the phone call came in and I'm calling contractors. Instead of doing what I want to be doing right now, I'm calling contractors to fix plumbing in a house I don't even live in. Oh yeah, I get a rent check every month. And oh yeah, I'm going to retire someday and no one's going to have any leverage over me at all because I'm going to have 25 houses at that point. That's what you remind yourself of, that this business is going to be great for you, your kids, your grandkids. So put up with the junk. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I think definitely dangling that carrot in front of you all the time about where you're going to be in the future, that's tremendously important. Otherwise, we lose sight of that and we'll end up hating our lives because we're just doing all the stuff that we probably shouldn't be doing. And quite frankly, if you're getting up to 25 properties, you need a property management company, right? Like you shouldn't be self-managing all 25. I'm 5'5" and like 130 pounds wet, right? Like I know what a sledgehammer looks like. I'm not going to pick one up. I'm your most like white collar person ever, but I'm going to look for folks that I can outsource this to that will help me for a fee. And that's how I'm going to build my rental portfolio. Very much the same way. Any of you that are listening, your business owners, your healthcare professionals, whomever you may be, investing in real estate is important. You get the income, depreciation, equity appreciation, and leverage, right? Ideal, IDEAL. And in order to get that, you have to put up with some of the stuff. It's going to be a little chaotic every now and then. It may not be easy, but you know what? There's stuff that you can do to mitigate those risks and feel okay doing it. And maintenance, it's going to happen, right? Like it's just like maintenance on your body. If you don't work out and you treat your body improperly and you don't get enough rest, you're not eating the right diet, guess what's going to happen? Your body will break down. The same thing with a house, the same thing with a relationship with a tenant or property manager. You have to make sure these things are kept up. Otherwise, you will lose the game of real estate investing. You probably shouldn't get started to begin with. What do you think?
That's a great point. You just said something that I wanted to jump in on, so it was perfect, is that fix everything. Okay? We deal, at OwnAmerica.com, if anybody visits there, you'll see this is a marketplace for serious rental property owners. Our clients own hundreds and thousands of them. They sell packages of 20, 50, 75 rental homes. And so we began this business dealing with the largest investors in the country. And now we're very passionate about making it available, making those tools, that data, those techniques available to everybody. Here's one of the things that people who get this right really succeed, and that is 10% of their rent they set aside for maintenance reserves. Okay? So when I sit here and we talk about a market, and I say it's a 6% yielding market or a 7% or a 4% or an 8% yielding market, and of course we always explain that what yield means is your income. What is the percentage of what you invested that you're getting back every single year as a percentage? So you can get 5 and 6% without breaking a sweat all over the country. That assumes you're paying 8% of your rent to a property manager to handle everything. That also assumes that you're paying 10% to a side account for a maintenance reserve. Because you know what? The phone call that the toilet broke is a hassle.
Right.
The phone call the toilet broke and I have to go write a check for $600, that's a second hassle. At least that way, two things are in place. One, you have the checkbook, the money's set aside, the HVAC went, but you've been saving money out of your rent. You're not spending it and then coming out of your savings account for your household to fix the rental property. Treat it as a business, separate bank account, separate side account for maintenance reserves. 10% of the rent goes there every single month. And that way, when the phone call comes in, at least you're not pinching your household's financials to take care of it.
If you're not budgeting properly and you're not allowing enough room for that buffer, you're definitely not treating it like a business, right? Like every month, every business owner knows you need to set aside a little bit of money for taxes. Otherwise, you're gonna get spanked a little bit later, right? And that's not good. You're going to get hit with that tax burden that you're not ready for because you've already spent that capital. The exact same thing in the real estate world. You have to make sure that 10% a month in that reserve account is there. Like you said, Greg, I agree. Everything has to go into its own bank account. And I wouldn't think that's a nightmare. Don't treat that like a nightmare. It's just standard operating procedure.
And by the way, here's where it goes if you don't do it. Here's where it also gets out of control. Beyond just having to come out with a payment out of your personal account to cover something, fix everything when it breaks. Right? If you know this about your own residence, as soon as you let things slip and they begin to pile up, now you've got a backlog of things and it gets expensive. And then the tenant experience gets worse, right? We see a lot of pretty solid investors who make that mistake. So when it breaks, fix it, set the money aside so you have the money for it. Always keep everything in great condition.